That's it. That was easy, wasn't it? Okay. But I'd also, in fact, on the phone this morning, while walking the streets and getting lost here in Philadelphia, I was talking to a director on my phone, probably why I got lost, about how much I wanted to play Bottom in Midsummer Night's Dream, and or, oh my Lord, Patrick, come on. I don't think it applies to me. Dogberry in Much Ado About Nothing, two wonderful comic roles. People don't think of me as that kind of comic actor, but I'm trying to change that perception. Yes, my dear. Hello.
Hi, I was wondering if there was a moment in your career that was kind of a game changer in terms of the way you felt about yourself as an actor, or where you wanted your career to go?
There was no moment, there was no epiphany as such, but there were two productions that allowed me to change the way that I worked. One of them was because a director made me, said that kind of work may be good enough for the Royal Shakespeare Company, but it's not good enough for me, basically. Tough. And that made me rethink how I worked, and I never went back to the old way again. And the other was a production of The Winter's Tale, where again it was a director's influence when he said to me, The Winter's Tale is about a really terrible man who is deluded, murderous, and destructive. And I remember the director saying to me, if you don't find this person inside yourself, it's not going to work. And so with his support and psychological help, he let me see that all of the bad things in me, all the worst possible things, I could let out on stage and still be safe and not do any harm. And that was a hugely significant experience for me. I remember an American friend of mine, a professor of English at UCLA, saying, who saw this production several times, saying, you would have had more success in this role, Patrick, had we not felt that we shouldn't really be there watching. That it was too personal and private. But nevertheless, it was a breakthrough experience for me. And I was never afraid again after that of exposing Patrick Stewart on stage. And in fact, now that's largely what I do most of the time.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We have probably time for, let's say, 3 more questions. I'm sorry about that. So I don't want you guys all to be standing up there. So if we can count 3 back, and then I'm sorry I have to be done because Mr. Steiner and I have a train to catch.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
I went to high school specifically for acting, and I remember my teacher was very big into Shakespeare, and so I'd seen your Shakespeare workshop video, and I saw your Macbeth at BAM. My wife constantly talks about that sandwich you made on stage. She loved it. She was mesmerized by it. I was curious, do you have a favorite sonnet?
Song?
Sonnet, Shakespearean sonnet.
Sonnet?
Sonnet, I apologize.
Right. Well, thank you. I'm glad you saw the Macbeth, and I'm glad you saw it at the Harvey. We did it in 4 different theatres during the 1 year of its life. And the Harvey was, I think for most of us, even though being on Broadway at the Lyceum was incredible, the Harvey was perfect. And all of the horror and creepiness and weirdness of the play really seemed to work in that space. And I'll tell you about the sandwich. There is a very, very complex scene in Macbeth where Macbeth is corrupting 2 men to commit a murder on his behalf, which includes the murder of a child. It's an ugly and awful scene, and it's very long. And I remember saying to the director, the brilliant Rupert Gould, I wish I had an action instead of just talking, I wish I had an action. And Rupert Gould memorably said, "Why don't you make a sandwich?" But actually, instantly, I knew it was a great idea because we did have a refrigerator on stage with us, as it happened. And I also have to tell you that the two other actors who played the two murderers, every night would give me marks out of 10 for the quality of the sandwich. It was, well, in London and Chichester, where the play began, it was bread and lots of butter and ham and something else, and mustard. When we came to the United States, I said, "I want pickle." So we had those nice big pickles as well, because it was America. We tend not to put them in sandwiches in England. And those two actors, they ate that sandwich every night. They would take it off with them and finish it in the wings. Right, there was a second part to your question.
If you had a favorite sonnet.
Oh, favorite sonnet. Oh yeah, okay. Well, it is impossible to choose, but there is only one that I can say I know absolutely accurately by heart all the way through, and it has featured significantly at different times in my life, and that is "Let me not to the marriage of true minds and witty pedants." It is a wonderful, wonderful piece of verse. And I thought you said song. That would have been a much more interesting question than sonnet, but you said sonnet.
I'll save that for the next time I see you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yes.
In my last production that I worked on, we had a whole bunch of problems with the play. We got 2 days before the production, we got moved into a completely different theater because the lights exploded in our other one. So we had to reblock that. And the night of the second show, a friend of mine who was the lead jokingly said Macbeth, hoping, I don't know what he was intending, and then lo and behold, the mics didn't work. And then our sound guy forgot, since he wasn't on mics, forgot to hook up with sound cues. And he's here today. And so there was a lot of that weird crap that happened because of, I assume he said Macbeth. Have you ever had anything like that happen? Or just somebody did a theater, one of those bad luck charms for theater? Has that ever happened to you where something really horrible happened?
Well, all actors are deeply superstitious about that play, and I could only mention it here because we are not in the theatre. In the profession, whenever, and sometimes even some actors will not say the name of the play outside the theatre, but certainly in the theatre it is always referred to as the Scottish play. And saying the name is bad, but quoting from it is even worse. But there is a popular belief that threaded into the text there is another language, a language of witchcraft and black magic. And of course there is witchcraft in the play anyway, and there's a lot of murder and bloodshed and craziness in it, and bad things do happen. I have my own theory. One is that most of the play happens at night. So every production of Macbeth happens in the dark. And you walk into things. It happens all the time. Actors have been known to fall off the stage. There was a moment when Macbeth goes off to kill King Duncan. He's alone on stage when I would say the last line, "Hear it not, Duncan, for it is a knell that summons thee to heaven or to hell," and I would turn to my right and the light would go to black, and I walked in the direction of where I remember the exit was, because I could see nothing at all. And so you walk into things. The other thing is that there is a fight at the very end of the play, a sword fight, which happens when the two actors have been in there for a long evening and are tired. And accidents happen in sword fights. You can't help it, no matter how much you